Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and to another video where today we're doing another one of these. Today we need to talk about what on earth is going on at Prescot Cables. The story starts on the 15th of July when Prescot Cables posted a website article titled Club Statement First Team Management, which reads as follows. Prescot Cables Football Club wish to inform supporters that first team manager Stephen Daly and first team assistant manager Peter Kaminski have stepped down from their roles with immediate effect. Following an evaluation of the club's financial obligations for the upcoming season and our projected outgoings, it has become clear that our initial agreed budget is not sustainable. The long-term sustainability of the club will always be our first priority. We thank both Stephen and Peter for their enormous contribution to the club since their appointment in February 2023. The article then states that Prescot Cables will be making no further comment at this time. To many, this news came as a huge shock, considering Daly had guided Cables to promotion to the Northern Premier League Premier Division for the first time in 15 years, thanks to a 2-0 win over City of Liverpool in the playoff final. To make matters worse, following the announcement of Daly and Kaminski's departure, key players who were integral to Cables' promotion success announced their departure from the club shortly after the announcement. Within hours of the news breaking, fan favourites Kyle Samba, Nathan Curler and Liam Hollett stated their intentions to leave the club, along with recent signings Charlie Doyle, Ben Elliott and Brandon Newell, who also expressed their desires to play their football elsewhere. The following evening, Stephen Daly posted a statement of his own on his X profile, which reads as follows. Good evening, Prescot Cables fans. I write this message with a heavy heart. Unfortunately, my time at the club has come to an end. Myself, Wacker and the management team would like to thank this special group of players, especially for last season's achievements, something that will never be taken away from us. We would also like to say thank you to Fortis Venues, who stabilised the club and gave us a platform for an incredible season, but most importantly, the fans, for all the love and support you gave us. You really are the 12th man, and we will be forever grateful. I wish you all the love and respect you deserve. Thank you for everything. A couple of hours after Daly's statement, Prescot Cables posted an open letter addressed to their fans, volunteers and observers in an attempt to quell the growing discontent amongst supporters and calls for the board to resign. However, this did nothing of the sort. In fact, it only angered fans even more. In the letter, it is detailed that Stephen Daly and Peter Kaminski resigned due to a failure to agree on a budget and additional player contracts with the board, with one quote stating that Stephen and Peter indicated early on their desired budget for the 2024-25 season. But it has become apparent that there remains a shortfall in revenue for us to be able to fully commit to this without some jeopardy to the club's ability to operate. Further to this, the club states that despite initial fears, the club is not close to becoming insolvent and that they do not accept relegation as an inevitability. Which, in my opinion, is slightly concerning that this is even having to be mentioned before a ball has been kicked this season, and if I were a Prescot Cables fan, my optimism for the season would be at rock bottom after this whole debacle. The club then looked to address the anger coming from supporters, particularly on social media, following the news of Daly and Kaminski's departures, asking fans to remain respectful and stating that the board of directors are local people who have families and in some cases young children. Each director is a volunteer who only wants to help the club in whichever way they can. Prior to this, the letter reads that the next manager to be appointed will be given a budget the highest that this club has ever operated with. It was also revealed in an article written by Stephen Killen for Off the Park that the club hoped to make an announcement over Daly's successor on Wednesday the 17th of July or Thursday the 18th of July, and that they have their eyes set on a manager who is well known around non-league football and is currently employed by another club. Lo and behold, a day later, on the 17th of July, Prescot Cables announced that David Dempsey would be joining the club as first team manager after leaving Burscough in the Northwest Counties, with Chris Stammers joining as his assistant. David added in a post of his own that he's immensely proud to manage Prescot Cables, with it being a role he's always wanted and he couldn't say no when given the opportunity. David also admitted that the shoes of the previous management team are big ones to fill, given what the club achieved last season, and that there was a lot of work to do. Due to all the upheaval taking place, the club then saw it fit to cancel 2 of their upcoming friendlies against Skelmersdale United on Thursday the 18th of July and Hanley Town on Saturday the 20th of July, throwing a further spanner into the works for their pre-season preparations. Following this, things seemed to have calmed down at Cables, with the management situation having been resolved, so we thought. However, more chaos wasn't far away, as on the 19th of July, Prescot Cables announced that following 25 years of service across a wide number of roles, Chairman Tony Zeverona was to resign from his position. In a short post on their X account, the club also condemned personal abuse aimed at Tony over the course of the week. This message of abuse being aimed at the board was further backed up by a statement from Richard Tigwell, who said he feared for his family's safety after being targeted by fans online following Daly's resignation. The club acted quickly to appoint a new chairman in order to steady the ship, and following a meeting with the club's board of directors, Prescot Cables announced that vice chairman Joe Jubilaroo would be stepping up to take the helm. This is following a 40-year association with the club, from player to manager to vice chairman and now chairman of the football club. Unbelievably, the chaos does not stop there though, as later that day, Cables announced in a short post from their X account that Stephen Daly would be rejoining the club as first team manager, therefore seeing David Dempsey depart after just 72 hours in charge. David Dempsey then released a rather damning statement of his own, which reads as follows. Where do I start? It's been my ambition since going into management to manage Prescot Cables Football Club. To witness the current situation firsthand, it's unbelievably hard to watch. With the chairman resigning today, 99% of the playing group walking away from the club, and the change at board level within 48 hours, the job has become an impossible one to do. I genuinely love the football club, and the decision has been extremely tough to make, but I have today had to resign from the post after 72 hours as the manager. I don't think anyone outside of management will appreciate the job ahead for the club, and I can't put myself in such a vulnerable position despite my feelings towards the football club. I have taken all of the past week's events on my own shoulders and tried to repair what I have now learnt, in my opinion, is unrepairable. I would like to thank the club for the opportunity and wish Prescot Cables all the best for the future. I'm sorry. So, where does this leave Prescot Cables going into the new season? Well, pretty much back where they started less than a week ago. Stephen Daly and Peter Kaminski are back in charge with presumably a revised and more sustainable budget. I also wouldn't be surprised if most, if not all, of the players that departed following Daly and Kaminski's initial resignation now return to the club, and they pretty much carry on where they left off. Essentially, all this boils down to is a very public and messy set of negotiations between first team management and the board that has been played out in public for Prescot Cables fans and the rest of the non-league community to watch on in disbelief. So, what has the club actually gained from all of this? Well, presumably, they've managed to compromise on an enhanced yet sustainable budget with the management team. However, in the process, they've lost their chairman of 25 years, created uncertainty and distrust amongst the fan base, and, in my opinion, thrown an excellent non-league manager under the bus after just 72 hours in charge, and lastly, in many people's eyes, become the laughingstock of the non-league game overnight. Personally, I really do feel sorry for David Dempsey and Chris Dammers in this whole situation, and don't think it's fair on either of them. From my experience, both David and Chris are great men, both on the touchline and away from the pitch, who did a very good job during their time in the Clitheroe dugout last year. On a more positive note, Prescot have since announced that David Dempsey and Chris Dammers will return to their roles at the club, with them both reportedly fully focused on working together to achieve the collective goals of the club. If either of them are watching this, I hope that they can put this mess behind them, and I sincerely wish them the best for the future. While David stated it was his choice to resign after just 72 hours due to the seemingly impossible task ahead of him, I do feel he was thrown under the bus slightly and got used as a pawn in the club's negotiations with the previous managerial team. To me, this just isn't a fair way to treat a manager, no less one who was a well-respected figure and stalwart of the club during his playing days. In my opinion, none of this needed to happen publicly, and the club could have saved a lot of embarrassment had they kept this behind closed doors. I don't think Stephen Daly or Peter Kaminski are blameless in this either, however. Yes, they had expectations around the playing budget that weren't met, but jumping to resign rather than staying at the negotiations table a bit longer would have likely prevented this whole fiasco in the first place. The fans, though, are the ones I feel have taken the hardest hit in this situation. While the personal abuse aimed at members of the board is completely unacceptable, I can understand their fears and feelings of discontent. I genuinely have no idea how next season is going to pan out for Prescot Cables. Will they be able to put all this behind them and kick on with Stephen Daly and Peter Kaminski back in charge? After all, they were the ones who secured them their first promotion back to the Northern Premier League Premier Division in 15 years, so you think they'd be the right men to carry on that charge. On the other side, however, I wouldn't be surprised to see all this turmoil seeping out onto the pitch and potentially affecting performances. Issues behind the scenes usually coincide with a poor season on the pitch, as we've seen countless times at this level. Hednesford Town and Marske United last season spring to mind, as well as Stalybridge Celtic the season before that. For the sake of the fans, I just hope that the club can move forward with Stephen and Peter back in charge and build on the success of the promotion that they earned last season. But guys, there you have it. That was my breakdown of the situation that's been unfolding at Prescot Cables over the last week or so. What do you think of it? Let me know your opinions in the comments down below. And if you are a Prescot Cables fan watching this, or indeed a fan of any other club and just happen to be as interested as I am in the whole situation, please do not forget to leave a like on the video, and of course subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you never miss an upload. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.